Hi guys, hope the year started well for you. I personally cannot believe it is already mid-April. It's crazy how it seems to get faster every year. But anyway, a question I've been asked many times over the years is when should I hire my first team member? And I was asked again recently, so I figured why not just make a video out of it instead. More importantly for me than the when is the who. You need to consider what type of team member you're hiring, as in, is it a field team member or an admin team member? This makes the when much more clear. Now, there are actually three possible scenarios you need to consider, in my opinion, not just the one in your head that you've already decided on because it's the most convenient for you personally. This is often how we make decisions, what suits me best rather than what is best for the business. Now, 100%, getting into business for yourself should mean being able to make your own choices. It's just recognizing that all choices have consequences. Whichever way you decide to go is fine. I'm not saying that there is a right or wrong way. Everyone's business is different. I just want to give you some food for thought so you can make an informed decision. Now, I should also highlight that over the years, I've not just witnessed people in the pest industry hire new staff. I know at least 10 close friends or family in service-based industries that have traveled this same path and hired their first and their second and their third team member. And they've all done it differently, so I simply wanted to explain what I've seen. And I'm talking anywhere from hairdressers and retail owners to electricians, plumbers and mechanics. Any service-based industry shares similar challenges and journeys. Now, without you falling asleep on me, if we can go right back to the beginning when you first start out by yourself, the greatest challenge, as I've mentioned in previous videos, is finding the work. A few cashies on the weekend feels good, but when you have to make the jump and you have no other income, it's scary if the phone isn't ringing and the jobs aren't coming in. Once you get over that hump and the work is consistent, it feels like overnight you've swung the other way and you're now too busy to even find a weekend to relax because things have become too hectic. And the temptation is to go straight to, why don't I hire another tech who can take this workload off me? That'll make everything less hectic, surely. And to add to it, then I can get off the tools a bit and start doing more of the admin I'm not getting time for. It sounds like a brilliant plan, I must admit. Of course, if you ask anyone who's been through this, most of the time they will tell you three things. Most likely they either spent months or even years looking for a great tech with no luck, or they hired one or 10 who ended up doing more harm to their business than good, or just creating more headaches for them. The few people that struck gold and found a great tech will tell you how nothing really changed, or worse, they got even busier. They spend more time chasing their tail or managing the new team member, and then often they hire another one thinking that will be the solution, and the hamster wheel gets faster with no way of getting off it. So what happens and how do you avoid it? Well, unfortunately, I'm not here with a silver bullet or a miracle solution, but I will tell you what you need to consider. But let's do this on the whiteboard instead. All right, so what I've drawn on the whiteboard is some fancy cups. We'll call them cups. I'm not the best artist. The way we've always looked at our business as we've grown over the years is we've looked at using cups as measuring the capacity of what our current size is, and obviously filling the cup to the top is at 100% capacity based on the current size of the business. So if we go back to the start and look at as a single operator on our own, no other staff, if we've started to get consistent business, we might be doing 5,000-6,000 a week or 250 to 300,000 a year, I should say. So if we're able to do 250 on our own, and obviously some people might be doing less and be comfortable, other guys could be absolutely smashing it and be doing twice that. If we use that as a nice round number, as a single operator, we wouldn't have a lot of overhead costs. So typically we wouldn't have our own office, we've got our own vehicle and the chemical costs, some form of insurance for ourselves, but we wouldn't necessarily have work cover for other team members that we don't have yet, and all those other costs. So if we consider our costs fairly low in the red, then what it means is most of the time we're able to just produce income. So you can see here as a single operator, most of the time we're producing income. So 40, 50 hours a week, we might be going and doing the work. 10 hours a week, we might be doing some of that admin cost, sending invoices, doing any of that back-end stuff that isn't directly creating income. So very small overheads. If we look at the first scenario, most people's preferred option, hiring a tech. So if we said that we're hiring an experienced technician in the context of trying to reduce our hours on the road, they can help cover the workload and we could do more of the admin. What that means is we might be doing more like 350 a year. We're doing some, the new technician's doing some. Now, a lot of considerations we have to have is That first month in particular of the training, they're probably not going to produce any extra income. In fact, if we're investing extra time into training, we could be doing less revenue than we would on our own. So training is an investment. And then we need to look at the costs of the actual technician. Now, in reality, an experienced technician, we could be looking at least $120,000 a year. Could be 80K for the tech wage, plus super, plus the vehicle, plus phones, insurances, all those sorts of things. So even though we're able to do more revenue, we've suddenly increased our cost base substantially for that new technician, insurances, all those sorts of things. But we're still able to do a lot of income, or more income. So when we look at it, we need to consider, even though we're doing more income, are we making more profit, or are we just increasing our costs? If we looked at a different scenario, as a part-time admin, for example, to help cover the times that we're not able to produce revenue, we could hire a part-time admin team member for, say, 40K or less instead of the 120. They might be just working a few hours each day or a few hours a couple of days a week. And so our costs could be a lot less. If it frees us up by 10 hours a week or more, not just the time to do that work, but it could be energy. Energy is a big factor. So suddenly we're able to produce more ourselves, and we could be suddenly turning over another 100,000 more simply by freeing ourselves up, not having to do that admin side of things. So again, same revenue, but which one is a better cost base? Which one's making more profit? Ultimately, when we look at it, we might in fact end up being able to increase our capacity, but because we're increasing costs, we might actually not be better off. It might be making less profit with more income than if we were just on our own. So it really depends on the context and what we're trying to achieve. Typically with a lot of service-based industries, the goal is not to get one staff member, it might be to get to 4 as quickly as possible, where you can have that sweet spot. You might end up with yourself driving the sales, you might have 2 experienced technicians and 1 in the admin, and you're much more profitable than if you're on your own. But somewhere in the middle could end up with more costs and not necessarily a better outcome. Of course, we also want to consider what the next cup after that, beyond that, would look like to have a goal. So that next cup could be any size. And when we're ready to make the jump to the next cup, if we've got a plan, we're ready to do so. A third option somewhere in the middle is a trainee. They won't get you extra revenue straight away, and you will have to invest in the long game of training and patience. But if you know how to guide them and mentor them, suddenly they're doing a number of tasks on a job for you, with your supervision, of course, and you're able to take those phone calls and send those invoices much more easily. Now, of course, the first option, most people's preferred option, hiring the perfect tech to cover the workload, would be amazing. So I don't want to discourage anyone from pursuing that option. I'm just saying the odds are like winning lotto. Of course, I'm being ridiculous. The odds of the perfect tech falling in your lap right now are far greater odds than the lotto. Again, I'm kidding, of course, there are still many great techs out there looking. Believe it or not, and I don't mean to brag, but as an example, we hired 6 new techs in January. 1 didn't work out, but that's a story for another day. And this is on top of the 4 techs we hired late last year. It sounds ridiculous, but I am still looking for 3 more technicians because we can't keep up with demand. My point is there are techs out there that are looking, but from what I'm seeing, small companies hiring the first 1 or 2 techs struggle to compete with the wages larger companies like us can offer top tier techs. Most companies just can't afford great techs with the wages they're asking at the moment because it takes so long to get the return on a team member that cash flow suffers the first few months. Having a great reputation, having stability and job security are also key things techs are looking for right now, along with strong training systems and a great culture. Now look, obviously I am proud of our reputation and the team we have and the systems we've built. I'm more trying to highlight that whilst small companies can have a real family feel or a great caring culture, they're usually the highest risk business for a tech to join, especially those hiring their first ever team member. If they don't have any systems or processes in place and are struggling just to keep up with the day-to-day and getting jobs done, and if they're unfamiliar with managing an employee, then both sides are actually at risk. The wrong tech can easily take you for a ride if they can see you aren't managing things. And the company could risk giving horrible work conditions despite their best efforts or good intentions. Now look, I know like usual, I'm probably offending the shit out of a few people there. Don't get me wrong, there are heaps of people nailing this. Heaps of amazing small companies. But if they reckon they nailed everything on the first go, they're kidding themselves. I'm simply stating that it's tough the first time around hiring your first employee. And for me, the trainee option or part-time admin is a much safer route. It has the possibility of teaching not just the new recruit a whole heap, but you as the owner a whole heap along the way. And the best part is it will get you ready to find that perfect tech. So when they do show up on your doorstep, you're less likely to f it up. Cheers, guys.